For the film White Elephant, the film was set in the Central Post Office in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo. And the challenge in this film was really to come up with a score that really reflected the environment and helped tell the story, but was also very authentic. I actually travelled to Antwerp to work with a very famous Congolese guitar player, Dizzy Manjeku, to develop the score. We worked together mostly using guitar. We also used another African musician who played percussion and also sang. Field of Vision is a science fiction film. Because science fiction is such a recognised genre and comes with a lot of baggage in terms of the styles of music that tends to get used in this kind of film, I wanted to come up with something that was appropriate to the film but avoided too many of the obvious cliches. The film deals with very big themes philosophically, and the story is quite complex. The characters are in a very enclosed environment. So one of the challenges also was to find a score that not only reflected and helped develop and tell the big themes of the film, but also the scale wasn't so big that it seemed to overwhelm it. For this I used a combination of strings, quite a big string section, but also electronica, particularly sort of old analog synthesizers, creating sort of soundscapes and quite subtle drones and underscore with the string section. For the animation Damned, I had the opportunity to write a very big score, which is quite unusual for short films. It was quite a challenge on this film with quite a restricted budget to create such a large Hollywood sound. But I used a combination of live players, mostly strings, brass and a little bit of woodwind with samples and MIDI instruments, and created an epic score. As a composer, one has to be incredibly flexible and versatile to be able to work in many different styles, to be able to work with many different kinds of musicians, from full orchestral sessions to working individually with unusual instruments, being able to experiment and collaborate with the whole team right the way through the process. It's also been very important I found, to work closely with the sound designer in particular in order to shape the whole score for the whole film.
Au Revoir Monkeys had a very quirky narrative. When I first saw it in the edit, I laughed quite a lot, actually. We came in fairly late, myself and John Wygens, into the process because initially the director had decided he didn't want music for his film. The director had picked out some Charlie Mingus tracks for a few sections, and this worked really well with the film because this kind of jazz score brought out the sort of exuberance of the main character. So our challenge was to come up with something similar to that, but also have an individuality. The addition of solo bass to the score meant that we could feel more for the personal story of the main character. Both of my grad animations required a fair amount of music, especially Ernesto. The music was integral to the animation, and without giving the story away, the songs that we wrote, I had to work very closely with the director, writing the lyrics, and it was very important to get the right music together before she started animating. For pretty crisp. The director was keen to have quite a singable, memorable theme. In the edit, at a fairly early stage, they found some temp score that worked incredibly well. So I had the problem of coming in and trying to come up with something as good as or better than what they already had. But in the end, we had a good process of trying out several ideas, and we ended up with quite a chintzy, kind of almost 1950s sort of happy family score, which clashed with the unsophisticated, badly behaved characters in her film.
For the first scratch film I did only use guitar, acoustical guitar. So I recorded loads of different sounds, making soundscapes of recorded guitar. Basically because the main character is a guitar player, so we wanted to go with the music as close to the character as possible. The process of composing the music started already during the edit. I gave the editor tracks which they used extensively throughout the documentary. When the edit was locked, I basically took those tracks again and tried to enhance everything and tried to shape the whole story. The score for Strays needed a completely different approach. The film was really energetic, so the score consists, most of it, of drums, electric guitar, bass guitar, and trash objects as musical instruments. I drummed on heaters, cans, and other found objects were used in the score. It's a very percussive and energetic soundtrack, combined with the sound design. And this combination gave a very fresh feel to the film. In contrast to Strays, playing Ghost needed a completely different approach. This animation needed a really delicate score. Like, it was really difficult to find the balance between too emotional or too childish. My instrumentation was very light instruments like harp and glockenspiel and like bell instruments, but also mezzo-soprano and strings. What I have enjoyed the most at the NFTS is, I think, like the collaboration with all the departments, like being really close to the sound design, being really close to the editors. Because having them around, it's very, very effective, and you can work so much more closer and getting the right music much more quicker. For me, this has been a really huge advantage for the whole process of filmmaking.